BMW has been launching cars in India at a relentless pace over the last few months. And the latest car to be launched is the 2021 BMW 6 Series Gran Turismo. Yes, it is an updated model and it gets subtle design tweaks along with more equipment. So, let's check out what the changes are and how significant they seem to be. Straight away, the first thing that registers is the updated front end. The kidney grille now becomes wider and the LED headlights are now sleeker than before. The front bumper too has been revised and sports a new apron, which highlights the width of the car. Same goes for the rear bumper too, which now gets a bigger diffuser. We have the M Sport version with us for testing today, and it gets sleek looking trapezoidal tailpipes. The LED taillights though stay the same as before. What is also standard on the M Sport trim is the BMW laser light technology, which is set to offer better illumination and a longer throw too. The M Sport package also includes various M logos on the exterior, key fob, door sills and even the brake calipers up front, which are done in blue. The other cool feature is the rear spoiler, which gets activated automatically once the car crosses 120 km per hour. Step inside the cabin and you'll notice that not much has changed in terms of the layout, but the biggest update is the new 12.3-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which gets Apple CarPlay like before, and for the first time it gets Android Auto, which is wireless if I may add. Apart from that, you have the usual run of features like ambient lighting, 4-zone automatic climate control, electrically adjustable rear seats which were there before, and a full-size panoramic sunroof. The M Sport variant also gets a rear seat entertainment package which comprises two 10.25-inch screens which support full HD video viewing. Being a notchback, the 6 Series GT continues to have a cavernous boot of 600 liters with the rear seats up, but the Space Saver tire takes up quite a bit of, well, space. Overall, the car retains its sense of spaciousness and comfort. The new seat fabric feels plusher too. Although the rear seats could have been a touch more comfy, maybe recline a little bit more. Now, BMW offers you 3 engine options to choose from on the GT. There's a 2-litre diesel, a 3-litre straight 6 diesel and a 2-litre petrol variant, which is the one we are driving today. It makes 255 brake horsepower at 5000 RPM and the peak torque output is rated at 400 Newton meters, coming in between 1550 to 4400 RPM. The claimed 0 to 100 km per hour sprint time is 6.5 seconds, which is impressive, and the top speed is 250 km per hour. So right off the bat, the engine on this car is really smooth and quite punchy too. The power delivery is very linear, the throttle response is quite crisp, and this is one of those cars that you really want to spend more time driving rather than sitting behind. A turbocharged engine means that the bottom end is slightly lacking, but the mid-range is really meaty, quite meaty, and you have a lot of torque, a big dollop of torque always available. The 8-speed automatic gearbox on this car is mated really well to the engine, and it does a good job of putting down all the power and shifting in general. The updated 630i gets 4 drive modes which are Sport, Comfort, Eco Pro and Adaptive. One can further choose from various sub-modes within these modes. Each mode works as advertised, but our pick would be the Adaptive mode, which does a nice job of balancing performance and comfort. The 6 GT is a decent handling machine, and the response from the steering is sharp enough in typical BMW fashion. But what really stands out though is the ride quality. Thanks to air suspension all around, the BMW 6 Series GT offers you really plush ride quality on most broken surfaces. Only when you hit a sharp-edged bump, you hear that thud and feel the jolt. While the 2021 BMW 6 Series Gran Turismo may not look like it gets a bunch of updates, but it does make more sense to buy one now. You won't be disappointed whether you drive it yourself or be driven around in it. There's a lot of space for your luggage should you wish to go on a grand tour, and you'll be doing so in utmost comfort. It almost feels like an epic chess match. Barely a month ago, Mercedes-Benz launched the 2021 E-Class facelift in India, and BMW responds by launching the updated 6 GT. Be rest assured, a comprehensive comparison is coming your way soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Car and Bike Awards 2021.
It is time to recognize the very best.
Let's take a look at who has won.
The year's most exciting bikes, scooters, cars, and technology. Win big at India's most credible automobile awards. The Car and Bike Awards at these times on NDTV 24/7.
The Hyundai Alcazar is here. Well, almost. And so, as has become customary these days, it seems we must begin with a look at the camouflaged car before we can see the uncovered one. And I also drove it, mind you, very briefly. It all began with the imagery of castles and royalty, and that's what Hyundai wants you to think of when you think of the Alcazar, named for Portuguese or Spanish castles. So we are at the magnificent Bishangarh Fort near Jaipur, only fitting, I suppose. The Alcazar will be Hyundai's next launch in India in a matter of weeks. So, am I calling this a first look? Well, no, that would be pretty ridiculous because for a first look, you would have to actually be able to look at the whole car. Can't really do that right now. Is this a first drive impression? Of course not. Yes, okay, I drove the car a little bit. Not enough to really comprehensively be able to tell you what you would like to know about that. So, what am I doing here today? Well, quite simply, telling you everything we currently know about the Alcazar.
The Alcazar shares a lot with the Creta, and yet it is a different animal, targeted at a different buyer, says Hyundai. So besides the obvious difference, which is size, the Alcazar also gets its own powertrain, where also size matters, it would seem. You have a brand new, bigger, naturally aspirated 2-liter petrol that makes 157 bhp and 191 Nm of peak torque. And that is the engine I got a chance to drive for around 10 to 15 minutes. Now it seems promising, but I definitely need more time with it. Yes, there is also a diesel Alcazar that uses the familiar 1.5-litre U2 VGT motor that we do know from the Creta and many others. Same power output and torque as on the Creta, but Hyundai says it has shorter gear ratios. Now, I can only confirm that when I get to drive one. Transmission options include a 6-speed auto or manual on both fuel types, and yes, that means no 7-speed DCT or dual clutch, and no turbo petrol engine either. But Hyundai is going for segment best mileage figures on both fuel types.
Now the Alcazar is a 3-row SUV. We know that part. We also know that Hyundai has said there will be a 6 and a 7-seater configuration, which means captain seats, of course, for the second row will be optional. But the part that has got me interested is the wheelbase. Now this is 2760 millimeters. On the Creta, it's 2610. So that means 150 millimeters more of space right here between the wheels. That's significant because all other 3-row SUVs, well, they all have 5-seater variants and they have the 7-seater variant, but the wheelbase remains the same. Here, you're getting a little more space. That's going to be good for the cabin. More space also because, well, back here the overhang is a little more than what you see on the Creta. We don't have the full dimensions yet, but visually you can tell it is more. You do have this extra quarter glass window here as well, and that means boot space will also be a whole lot more generous.
The car's interior will sport a whole host of features like ventilated front seats. Also expect Creta-like equipment on infotainment, including a Bose sound system and the same-sized touchscreen and panoramic sunroof. But expect a plusher cabin than the Cretas, which you are seeing on the screen right now. The Alcazar's body uses over 75% high-strength and advanced high-strength steel, so it promises more protection, but again, we'll have to await more details on all the safety equipment at launch.
All right, so the car is completely wrapped in camouflage with little forts all over it, but you can still see the alloy wheel pattern, and you also get a look at the door handle. It has a little metal trim on it. It's also finished in the blue, this particular car. I'm always biased, and it's obviously the same blue as the Creta. Now, speaking of that, the face is very much like the Creta, right? But at the back is where the car looks completely different, has its own identity, and the big reason is the tail light. I'm relieved. You know how I felt about the Creta and its tail light. This one looks better.
The Hyundai Alcazar will have its global debut at the end of April, and although it will end up in some other markets, it is primarily a for India product. The market launch and price announcement are expected in May 2021. And the Alcazar will primarily compete with the recently launched Tata Safari, MG Hector Plus, and the upcoming new generation of Mahindra's flagship, now to be called the XUV 700. And I expect pricing to settle between 15 and 20 lakh rupees across at least 3 trims on each fuel type. Hyundai did release some pictures of the car, and here you can see the side body sculpting and a new brown color in some detail.
So the Hyundai Alcazar is almost here, and we're going to talk about it with Tarun Garg, who's joining me right now. It's great to see you always, Tarun. It's great to actually see you and not on a screen for a change.
I swear.
So thank you for that. But yes, Alcazar, let's jump straight into it. The need for such a model in the Hyundai portfolio.
So as you know, very clearly the market is shifting towards SUVs and they're contributing 34% to the overall
You
market.
still want to say shifting, not shifted?
Actually, big time shifting,
Yeah.
because and shifting more.
Yeah.
So 29% in 20 to 34% already in the first quarter of 21. It's a big shift happening, and we just achieved a milestone of producing 1 million SUVs in India. With all humility, we are also the #1 SUV maker in the country now. Our market research suggests that there are many customers who are really looking for an upgrade from the Creta, and that is where the Alcazar fits in. Also, in India, there are so many customers who now want to travel together with their families. What this pandemic has done is it has brought us very much closer to our families. They want to travel together. Sometimes they want to go on a weekender with their wife, maybe play golf. The whole idea of carrying your equipment at the back, using the car in different ways is where Alcazar comes in, and I feel that this is really going to plug a big gap which exists in the market today.
So that gap, I mean, you just mentioned people upgrading from the Creta. Even your new Creta is still new in that sense. But what sort of a gap do you see? Because there are other 7-seater SUVs. Volume has not been really large for that space. So do you think the Alcazar will change that?
Yeah. So actually, how I see it, Siddharth, this is that when a product comes, it creates a segment. This is what Creta did in 2015. This is what i20 did. In fact, this is what Santro did in '98. And we very strongly believe that Alcazar is going to do the same thing. Yes, you're right. Probably because there are not too many products that exist in the market. That is why the market size is small. But if you start looking at the current market size and try to have a market share target, then I think that really restricts your position. So we have always believed that once a strong product comes and there exists a market, the market will expand. And this is what we are hoping Alcazar is going to do for us.
So let me put you into a scenario. Yeah. You're a dealer in a tier 2 town, a Hyundai dealer, obviously. It's a town which has a good buying population. People have the money. You have the Creta, you have the Alcazar, and you have the Tucson. Yeah. How are you differentiating your pitch and the customer?
Yeah. So a Creta customer will be more of a individualistic kind of a customer, who probably more often than not will travel alone, who really loves driving. And yes, it's a very good car, good space, good features. At the same time, Alcazar customer will be more used to traveling with the family, so he would want to maybe go on weekends with family, travel long distances. He wants luxury. He feels that yes, he is now wanting to upgrade, and he wants not only 3 rows for sometimes sitting his family, but also a flexibility to use the space in the car, like I said, to maybe carry his sports equipment. So that aspect. Also, sometimes even if he has teenage sons, he wants that they should also have that comfort of maybe a 3rd row air conditioning separate. So I think all those aspects will be covered by the Alcazar. Also, a chauffeur-driven car. Please understand, in India still there are so many customers who would want to be driven by a chauffeur, and in the 2nd row they want a thigh support, they want a good space, and again the Alcazar will fit in very beautifully. As far as Tucson is concerned, I think it's more of a global product, so there it is at the top of the spectrum, and it will continue to be there. It's more of a niche segment, but I believe that Alcazar and Creta will always be volume drivers, whereas Tucson will continue to be that niche segment.